Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome everyone. In today's explainer, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey through the biology of carbohydrates. Now, if you've ever glanced at a nutrition label or heard someone talking about cutting carbs, you already know this is a huge hot button topic. But today, we're actually putting away the diet magazines and we're putting on our lab coats. We're going to explore carbohydrates from the absolute ground up, looking at them as the incredible biochemical machines they literally are. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Why do carbs matter? 2. The basic building blocks. 3. Disaccharides, teaming up. 4. Polysaccharides, the long chains. And finally, number 5, the real benefits of carbs. We're essentially moving from a micro, molecular view all the way up to macro-level dietary impacts. All right, section 1. Why do carbs matter? The great diet debate. You know, it's pretty much impossible to talk about carbohydrates without acknowledging our modern cultural obsession with them. So we really have to start with this big overarching question. Are carbohydrates actually good for you? There's this massive tension right now in the health world. On one side, you have low-carb diets claiming that totally eliminating carbohydrates is the fast track to weight loss. But on the completely opposite side, you have high-performance athletes who specifically carb load before a huge competition just to make sure they can perform at their absolute peak. So how can both exist? Well, my goal today is to prove their biological necessity to you. To do that, we need a strong foundational chemistry anchor. What exactly is a carbohydrate? Well, by definition, it's a biological macromolecule represented by the stoichiometric formula CH2ON. Now, don't let the big words scare you. Just look at that formula carefully. The ratio is always 1 carbon to 2 hydrogens to 1 oxygen. Honestly, just look at the name itself, carbohydrate. It literally translates to carbon and the components of water, hydration. Every single time you eat a slice of bread or an apple, you're ingesting these precise carbon-water structures. Moving on to section 2, the basic building blocks. Meet the monosaccharides. The prefix mono means one, and saccharide means sweet. So these are your simple sugars. I want you to think of monosaccharides as single Lego bricks. Because, before you can build a massive, complex castle, you have to understand the individual bricks you're working with. Scientists categorize these single Lego bricks by the length of their carbon backbones. If a sugar has 3 carbons, it's a triose, 5 carbons, a pentose, 6 carbons, a hexose. Glucose, which is that famous fundamental energy source synthesized by plants and used by your own cells, is a hexose. Its chemical formula is C6H12O6. 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, 6 oxygens. A perfect 1:2:1 ratio. Now, what's really interesting about this is how structural isomers work. You can have the exact same chemical formula, but a completely different physical shape. If the carbonyl group is located at the very end of the carbon chain, we call it an aldose. If that carbonyl group is tucked right into the middle of the chain, it's a ketose. So glucose and galactose are aldoses. But fructose, the sugar that makes your fruit taste sweet, is a ketose. They all share that exact same C6H12O6 formula, but those slight structural differences totally change how they interact chemically in your body. It's like having the same exact Lego pieces but snapping them together in a slightly different order. But here's the thing, these molecules don't just float around as straight lines. Inside our bodies, which are essentially aqueous, water-based solutions, these 5 and 6 carbon sugars naturally form rings. The chain actually folds back on itself and closes. When this ring forms around an asymmetric carbon, it locks into one of 2 positions, alpha if the hydroxyl group is below the plane, or beta if it's above. This highly specific 3D geometry sets the stage for literally every chemical reaction that follows. Okay, section 3, disaccharides, teaming up, the dehydration reaction. We have our single Lego bricks. Now it's time to start snapping them together. Di means 2. So how do 2 single monosaccharides bond to become a disaccharide? It happens through a beautifully elegant process called the dehydration reaction. Let's walk through this step by step. Step 1. 2 monosaccharide monomers align right next to each other. Step 2. The hydroxyl group of the first sugar physically combines with a hydrogen atom from the second sugar. And step 3, well, what's 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen? It's water. A water molecule is released, which is why we call it dehydration synthesis, and a covalent bond forms between the 2 sugars. This specific connection is called a glycosidic bond. That release of water and the forming of the bond is the chemical snap of our 2 Lego bricks locking together. Let's tie these somewhat abstract chemical bonds back to the real world, the stuff you interact with every day. When you bond two glucose molecules together, you get maltose, which is what you find in green sugars. When you bond glucose and galactose, you get lactose. Yep, the exact same lactose found in milk that a lot of people actually struggle to digest. And when you bond glucose and fructose, you get sucrose. That is quite literally the white table sugar sitting in your pantry right now. Which brings us to Section 4, polysaccharides, the long chains, massive cellular structures. Now we're zooming out from pairs of sugars to the macro level. Poly means many. We're talking about hundreds, even thousands of monomers connecting via these glycosidic bonds to form massive, complex, heavy-duty structures. In the biological world, there are four main heavyweights when it comes to polysaccharides, and it is a perfect example of form-meeting function. First up, starch. Plants use this to store excess glucose in their roots and seeds. Second, glycogen. This is the animal equivalent. Right now, literally as you're watching this, your liver and muscle cells have highly branched glycogen molecules sitting there, just waiting to be broken down the second your blood sugar drops. Third, cellulose, which provides rigid structural support to plant cell walls. And fourth, chitin, a modified sugar that forms the hard exoskeletons of insects. Let's look a little closer at cellulose. Unlike starch, the glucose monomers in cellulose are linked by beta-1,4 glycosidic bonds. Because of the specific geometry of this beta bond, every single glucose monomer is actually flipped upside down relative to the one next to it. And this brilliantly illustrates why cellulose is so incredibly strong. This flipped arrangement allows the chains to pack together tightly into extended, linear, fibrous structures. This is exactly what gives wood its strength and paper its rigidity. Now, this brings up a really fantastic piece of biological trivia. You and I cannot go outside, eat a bowl of grass, and get any energy from it. Why? Because human digestive enzymes physically cannot break down that rigid beta-1,4 linkage in cellulose. But grazing animals like cows, buffaloes, and koalas absolutely can. How do they do it? Well, they have specialized bacteria and protists living in their stomachs that secrete an enzyme called cellulase. Actually, even termites use these internal organisms to digest the cellulose in the wood they chew on. Chitin is another fascinating structural carb. It's made of repeating modified sugar units that actually contain nitrogen. Whenever you step on a beetle and you hear that distinct crunch, or when you look at the tough cell walls of fungi like mushrooms, you're experiencing the structural strength of chitin firsthand. It's just wild to think that the exact same basic building blocks that make up the sweet sugar in your fruit also create the armor protecting an insect. All right, our final section, Section 5, the real benefits of carbs, fueling the human body. We've mastered the chemistry and the structure. Now let's directly apply this biochemical knowledge to your own diet, your health, and the human body. First, let's just talk pure energy. A gram of carbohydrate provides exactly 4.3 kilocalories of energy. For a quick comparison, a gram of fat provides about 9 kilocalories. This makes carbs a highly accessible, immediate fuel source for your body's rigorous, day-to-day demands. But hey, it's not just about the calories, right? It's about the structure. Remember cellulose, the rigid plant wall material we just talked about? Well, in the dietary world, we call that insoluble fiber. So the absolute crucial point here is that when you eat fiber, you are quite literally eating cellulose. And because your body can't break it down, it does incredible mechanical work as it moves through you. It adds bulk to promote regular digestion. It slows down how fast your body absorbs other sugars. It physically binds to excess cholesterol in your intestines and basically escorts it right out of your body. Plus, it gives you a lasting feeling of fullness. Ultimately, the biological necessity of carbohydrates really comes down to a process called cellular respiration. Deep inside your cells, glucose is broken down to produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is the literal energy currency of life. Without it, your cells just can't do work, period. When a diet entirely eliminates carbohydrates, it is actively removing the most accessible, instant energy source your body evolved to use to manufacture ATP. So, I'm going to leave you with this to ponder. Does your approach to nutrition actually respect the biological necessity of instant cellular energy? Or are you just treating carbohydrates as a dietary buzzword? The next time you look at a plate of food, I really hope you don't just see a passing diet trend. I hope you see structural isomers, glycosidic bonds, ATP production, and the brilliant applied molecular biology that literally keeps you alive. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the science.